This is a good topic.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Have to log into Twitch. I have my Obsidian with notes ready.
Cool.
Yep.
Your repurposed freighter drifts through space.
Looks good so far.
As you stare out at the star-flecked
Hey, Chris.
void, another ship comes in. Wait, is this sci-fi? I thought we agreed on a World War II campaign.
Good here.
Oh, did we? That's cool. I can pivot. The smell of smoke curdles in your nostrils.
Yeah, things are
Hold
going
up,
good.
I thought we were prepping for a zombie apocalypse campaign. All right, here's what we're doing. It's the year 3700. Humanity's elite fled to other planets long ago, taking with them all forms of advanced technology. Earth survivors scrape by with historic tools as weird phenomena plague abandoned nuclear sites. Witnesses report seeing glowing lights and the dead rising from their graves. And amidst the chaos, 3 strangers will meet in a dim bar. A veteran zombie slayer, a disgraced general out for revenge, and a space mercenary sent to investigate the power plants. Now describe your characters. How did you do that? I have the right tools for the job.
Oh, cool, man. Thanks. Hey, Courtney. Hope you're doing well. Is tonight an off night or do you got a game? I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. Do you have a game tonight as well? I think you do, don't you? I can't keep track. You got so many games. Doing great. Yep, hanging in there. That's it. All right, cool. Awesome. Oh, have fun with that. You saw we got Cobra back for the game Saturday, which is awesome.
A story once
Heather/violence in that game, so that what could go wrong?
The dungeon imagined without end.
It's a busy month.
The curious are the
We got a
ones
doubleheader
most
next Saturday.
curious.
Lots going on.
That endures
Yeah.
has to bend.
Then I'm planning. Hey, with Longshot, I'm planning for
From
my
stillness, the mad mage is stirring.
infancy planning for
From
this
countless
24-hour
voices,
stream,
the
but it's going to be a little
castle
different
takes
as
shape.
far as 24 hours goes. It's
Zadig
going to
will
be
test the enduring. Those unlucky will never escape.
it's going to be one game straight through, and I'll have to change the 3 different sets of groups, characters, terrain. Yeah, I'm going to run a classic adventure until it's from start to finish. She may not take 24 hours, but we'll see. I think it will. It'll be a blast. I got a lot of, well, let me just change this up first here. Whoops. Right over there. Go to Jeremy real quick. I got a lot of the top lists back from all the people I've requested. I still got to ask one more person. Joe Block is coming on live with Eric.
Hi, welcome back to Gamescape.
Oh,
Sunday.
cool.
Today we're
Great.
going to do
Gary
a
cannot
sneak
make it.
peek of
So,
one of our little peasant houses
yep.
to show how
So
easy
we'll have
these
Joe
things
Block
are to
on
paint.
with Eric.
Here's the peasant house.
I got lists for some other people. We won't tell who until that night.
Okay, so
What's up,
we're
my
all ready to
VB?
go. So I got about 3 minutes.
Lord
into
Forth,
it
what's
so
up?
far. We got the base, we got the roof.
Hang out. Oh, let me
and
do the
we
giveaway.
have a few smaller components.
Forgot that.
I have flat boards here for the loft.
Right.
And then I got
Here comes Mike.
a little itty bitty window parts there. And then I have a hood for the flue up on the roof, and this could be resin printed or
Mike.
FDM printed.
Hello.
And then lastly,
Hello.
No, yeah, you feeling all right? Feeling better than before?
No.
Really?
To put on the front
Is it vertigo? What is it?
It's
in terms of
high
models, sometimes these little
blood sugar. It's messing with everything,
Oh man,
including my eyesight.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
Are you diabetic?
Sometimes
I'm trying to fight it, bring it down.
just be a little off.
Well, man, if you got a bolt, at some point, let us know, man. It's cool.
Still early. No, I'm fine. I just can't see worth a damn.
The size you need
Well,
to clean out.
You
understood.
can hear us.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't help that I was also an eye doctor today, so my eyes are dilated.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, I was
okay, well,
like
then,
wondering.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Everything, all the bad stuff. Well, you get it all sorted in one day. So
Yeah. Wow.
Pretty bad when I see better without my glasses.
Yeah, because they're all wide open and stuff. It's kind of weird though, man, when that happens.
Well,
Yeah. So I have not requested yet, but give me your top 12 Greyhawks of all time for Sunday night.
So we got
Adventures in
those
order,
cleaned
okay?
out.
If you want to put
Should
in
be
honorable
fine
mentions
now
after
for
the 12, you're
filming.
more than welcome to.
And we will continue on.
I got a lot of different people. I'm going to compile them. we're going to rank them, and then we're going
The first thing I'm
to
gonna be
see.
doing
Yep.
is applying brown
Yep.
onto the timber
got some
frames.
Great people in the community.
I'm gonna use
I
a
did top
pretty good
12 that
size
way.
brush.
Like,
I don't care.
we're going to try and
about getting
put together a
brown
top 10 at
everywhere
least
for
from
this
that.
first part. In fact, it's preferred.
Like you said, we got the people
So
I've
there's my
announced so
brown
far is
again.
Eric and Joe Block.
Kind of on the lighter
Because
side. of
Gary
the
says he can't
tone.
make it, so unfortunately, but it's
Yeah,
the
I don't
only
want to use so
it's the only
much
Sunday Eric has in the next 2
brown,
months, so I
but
got to
I'm,
jump on it,
filling in the details, of course.
So
And if some of the black primer comes through, that's all the better. You definitely don't want to waste your time creating
One
an
second
even
here.
coat around this. It'll actually take away.
I'm pretty
from
sure I
it
did
in
a
the
blog
end,
post on this.
and,
Oh, you did really?
it's kind of just a waste
Probably.
of time. You can go do something else.
Maybe not 12, but some
you
number.
Make sure you kind of hit
Oh, cool.
the tops and the
You
bottoms.
may be able
of your
to just
timbers.
go off that and maybe
Okay.
modernize it or
Don't
keep it.
just paint the face of these.
Yeah,
things.
I'll look at
'Cause you're
it.
not
Yeah,
gonna be
that's for
coming
Sunday.
back
If you can
with
have
I'm sure it's been a while.
to hit these sides.
Yeah, because sometimes you get to one and you're like,
It's kinda-
oh, I should have had that on there.
The
I've been
last
overthinking
time they should
mine.
get painted unless you
And
absolutely
and
have
by
to
the way,
come
the
back in
Dungeon
and
Magazine
touch it.
adventures are fine if they're Greyhawk, and just no GDQ. Like G1 through 3 is fine, but GDQ is not because it's three whole different series. You know what I
Just
mean?
kinda going at
So
it.
yeah, we want to. Yeah,
No special care being taken to keep the wood color off of the plaster parts, or to apply this wood color to the plaster parts with any particular intention. And I might glaze over these
So
and
we definitely
let some
wanna-
of those black timber lines come through. Kind of dry brush it a little bit as opposed to like a straight paint job.
make sure I didn't miss anyone. I think I
And
did.
I might do it both ways. Sometimes I might saturate it a little bit, and
All right.
sometimes I might just kind of hit the.
That's enough
tops
of that,
and
right?
move along.
Oh.
Yeah, Jim, if they had gone for that fucking 2 seconds longer, it'd be a different story.
Alrighty. All right, everyone. Heironeous and Hextor.
Yeah, the Oilers. I'm rooting for all Canadian teams.
Yeah,
Okay.
dude, 1 freaking second, man. Was it 1.5 seconds? I think. Was it
Yeah.
one? It was one. Yeah.
1.6.
1.6.
Yeah.
And then it went to double overtime.
And I didn't watch a minute of it because I just knew.
You knew.
I knew it was over.
That
Yeah.
sucks. That really sucks. Yeah, Oilers are still alive. And of course, the Flyers got boned. They got dropped 2 spots down to 6th. In that stupid draft lottery.
Yeah, I don't know how the Islanders.
Yeah, I know.
They had like a 3% chance of getting the first pick and got drawn.
ridiculous.
That's, man, buy a lottery ticket.
That's ridiculous. All right. Bum, 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 bum. One second. Hey, at least you got a Stanley Cup. What's up, Bill? I mean, my last Stanley Cup, I was freaking 7 years old.
Yeah, Jay, you know, getting that one Stanley Cup, even though it was 6 years ago, has totally tempered my sports enthusiasm. Now I don't. When they get knocked out, I don't care anymore.
What's up, Josh? No, and like for me, I got two. Man, I got 2 Super Bowls in 7 years, man. So it's like, all right. Hey, everyone, welcome. You got Anna. I got Mike. Mike's squinting a little bit. Just
in the eyes.
Yeah, just in the eyes. He's got the crazy eyes.
It's getting progressively better the longer I
Oh, good. Yep.
stay on.
We're gonna have some fun tonight with this discussion, and we got some, another good mic choice on this. By the way, I get this new Stream Deck. It's awesome, but I mixed up all of the order that all my sub buttons were in. So now there it is. So now I'm like, where are my shout outs for each people? I used to have them memorized. So now I got to scroll through until I know them again. But welcome to the beginning of the week. We got 4 streams this week, and it's packed. So I'm just going to go over this real quick, just because I know some of you hop in and out and all the giveaways going, by the way. Just know we got a game tomorrow night, and then Saturday the game starts at 12:30. Okay, it's an afternoon game, so let me just throw that up real quick, and then I'm going to throw up the big thing, which we want everyone participating in. And then so this is the Bone Baddies and Eyes Are Upon You. That's at 12:30. All right, and, so Heather Hex Violence is in, so you're going to get to see Cobra. But the big thing is Sunday night. Sunday night, the top GREYHAWK published adventures of all time. Finally going to kick that top 30 thing out that was so politically set. And we're going to get
politically set?
It was. Come on. Some of those are terrible. Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil does not deserve to be in the top 10. It's awful.
No, I guess not.
It's so awful. And
I will have my take on it.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I'm going to tell you, participating live in person, Anna, myself, Joe Block, and Eric Mona, okay, will be on.
Awesome.
Then we got other people who I've asked. I may have some other people hop on and off, okay? But we got people in the community, big name people in the community. I got lists back already from 4 of them. So we're gonna have some fun with that. That's Sunday night, 7 o'clock. I know it's Mother's Day. My Mother's Day's in the afternoon because we have a brunch at my friend's house. So we'll get all our mothers done, nice and early. But this will be a blast. That'll be a blast if Eric. Unfortunately, Gary appears like Gary can't participate, but he may last second. You never know. All right, so where did we start? Let me just start. 1980. There ain't no Heironeous and Hextor. So I have the Deities and Demigods book, and we're using all those deities. Now I know nothing about those deities until when? The trivia question is, when do we know about
83 box set?
Nope.
We get. Were they in Dragon magazine earlier?
Yes.
Yeah, because there were some articles where they're.
Yes, Here we go. So let's take this is Dragon 67, which is I think is November of 82.
The funny thing about Dragon Magazine, though, is I feel you had to be in the know.
You had to be in the know, Mike.
Because
100%.
I never heard of Dragon Magazine till well after I had the box set.
Yeah. The only reason I knew about, yep, here. Oh, this is the first one. Okay. So the only reason I knew about this was, and Bill, who's on, and some of my other local people will know. There was a game store down at the Berlin auction that had all the old school stuff and had Dragon every month. And my first Dragon, I think, was 53 with a monk on it. You know, that really cool picture with the monk and the dragon on the front. Yeah, that was my first one. And so this is 67. So that's how, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, wow. That's when I first found out
the
about it.
first one I bought was
Hey, Patrick.
76 or 96. I forgot which one
It was.
that came out. And then I started collecting them and getting older ones. So I think I have them from the 60s onwards, almost all of them.
Well, that's the golden era.
Yeah,
I mean,
my first was in the 80s.
Somewhere around there, I managed. Not everyone, but I got everyone from there onwards, so to speak. I have at least from 90s onwards. I have every issue.
Go ahead, Michael, say?
While we were talking about old Dragon magazines, so when issue 100 rolled around, they had an index in that issue of the first 100 issues. So I'm going through the index and I see all these GREYHAWK articles. I'm like, what? And imagine how hard it is to find that. Like, I never read that stuff until the CD-ROM came out.
I was going to say the CD-ROM was fantastic. And the funny thing, I got wrong because I got two CDs of the same. That was like 6 CDs, and one was a double, and I was like, oh god. So what I did was that I went to London some years later, and they had a used one. So then I got it, but the problem was that some of them were scratched, so I didn't get it anyway. So it was weird. So it was only when I could pirate them online that I actually did that. So I got the PDFs that I actually paid for like 20 years later or 10 years later or whatever it was, 5 years later or something. Yeah, there were CDs. There were a little...
I know it's on that shelf. I can't find it for now. But
yeah, like 5 CDs with PDFs.
The first 250 it had 1 through 250.
Yeah, exactly. The first 250. Yeah.
Dragon 60. Yeah. Well, Patrick, this is the golden era. This is when my campaign was formed by all these specialty classes, like the Cavalier, the Duelist, the Bandit, are all in these. And this, 67 is another awesome one. And I want to show. I know I scrolled through this. I want to show a couple of the ads because I mean some of these are like so poignant for its time. This is the golden era of Dragon Magazine. Probably from that Anti-Paladin one, which is 38. 38, because a lot of the early ones are very theoretical, right? Were very theoretical, and the print was so small it hurt to read. There was some great stuff in them, but like for me, it was that era from 38, which I didn't have for years because you didn't have PDFs back then, But Tim had them. Tim's dad was getting them early, so we had access to them. We were able to photocopy them. But okay, so Dragon 67 is where it was at, where we start from, and like they're great deities, right? These two deities are like the cream of the crop that were created, but there's no replacement for like. All right, I'm using Uko. We're using Thor. We're using Odin. We're just like we're using Sif. We're using. Leviaths are to this day, right? We're using all these, and some of them stayed, some of them didn't. Ilmater especially stayed, and all. But we wanted to use the GREYHAWK deities because that was oh my god, we got GREYHAWK deities. But it's 1983, 82. They're coming out in drips and drabs. But when 83 came out in the box set, and then they're back in Arcana again too, right? Or is that just the demi-human ones? I always forget. Oh, no, the GREYHAWK Adventures is when a lot of them came out, too. GREYHAWK. Look, there's the Valiel picture, Kushi. A lot of great stuff. I mean, unbelievable stuff in these. All right, so I'm going to scroll down. Souping up the spider. We'll go nice. I know there's...
That was a good article about spiders.
Yeah, there's some great stuff.
Written by someone who actually knows a lot about spiders. That's the...
That helps. There's the old Grenadiers. By the way, did you guys all see how sad it was that Ratham closed its doors finally after 50 years? The Canadian miniature company.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 50 years they closed their doors. Now they're selling off their inventory and molds. One of our most important characters in the campaign was an original Ratham, and that was Schlemmen, that the original Schlemmen. Who is texting me? I don't know. Sorry, I'm sorry. So initial thoughts on the two, like when this came out, Mike, Anna. I gotta respond to this.
The artwork, like seeing Heironeous break a sword, with his hand.
Yeah.
That was attention grabbing.
That is true.
For me, it was kind of it was a taste, a first good taste of Heironeous and Hextor, and I always wanted these kind of martial gods because you want them in like heroic fantasy. You want the knight, the gods for knights and chivalry and the opposite, so to speak. But to me, it was always a lot of lacking because you had the stat block for a god, but the stat block for a god is kind of useless because you're not supposed to fight the gods directly.
Not when you're a kid.
Exactly. So to me, it was always. I love the article, I love the artwork, and this, but it was just a little hint. And to me, it took. I didn't dare to use Heironeous and Hextor properly because that was like missing. And now, like 10 years ago, it started to fill in. I read through the Bastion of Faith, that fills out a lot of the missing holes in the stories of this. Yeah. And then I have to give it to two other authors, that especially Scott McMillan and his I'm going to, let's see, copy URL. He wrote I think it's 12 or 13 articles on the history of the Great Kingdom.
Oh, nice.
This is awesome. That is all the backstories of Heironeous and Hextor, where they come from, where the kingdom come from, where the culture came from, their predecessors, the old myth and legends, all the stuff that I wanted. And then I have to shout out, we have, I
can't find
hang on a second. We also have David Leonard on his blog. He hasn't wrote a whole series of articles, but there's so many tidbits in his stuff, so to speak. So I'm going to link to his. Yeah. So
he goes so much into depth.
They have written things that I would have. This is what I've been missing for 40 years. I was like, this is what I wanted to read. Now I have enough to fill in the gaps and build my legends and build the histories of it.
Was there stuff based off of
it's based
notations?
Off yeah, exactly. It's based off of there's like sources. There's sources for every chapter. There's like sources of this. So what they did was that they took all the little sources and then wove from that skeleton. They put meat on the bones, so to speak, and put it in and wrote the history of the ancient kingdom of Thaland and Ferrante and Cabros and all his Loom the Mad and all the meaning the early days of Erdi. How did the things come together, so to speak, myth and legend and stuff, and it's fantastic. It's yeah, if you're into these topics, then do that and win. And then I have to give other credit to Rich Diaiola that for his insight in this too. Those are the things that have formed my view of it. And then when I started hearing this like 10 years ago, I started, now I need to do a campaign of this. And that was led into my Shieldlands campaign. Because this is where I realized this is where a lot of these stories converge to a very interesting point. But we can get to that later in the show. But that was my kind of take on it. I got like the seeds when I read the 83 box set and these early articles and stuff. They whet my appetite, but it took decades for me to get more.
Interesting.
Yep.
So when these first come out, it you know, and you can go through like what it does say where they are worshipped, but it's right. It's just like on the fringe, right? It says here,
well,
like, yeah, you know, there's no depth. Great
we
enmity.
didn't have specialty priests and stuff like that. These are our early days for we didn't have all the cool clerical rules and stuff.
I'm talking about as far as where campaign information beyond. Worshippers are found everywhere, right?
Yeah.
That's all it says.
Which is saying nowhere.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what.
If you say they're everywhere, that's like saying they're nowhere.
It doesn't say specifically like this is a great, the Knights of the Great Kingdom.
We barely know that they're Origin when it comes to the early
well, yeah,
days.
absolutely.
And that is something. These are some of the most Origian gods in the pantheons of gods in GREYHAWK, so to speak. These are part of Origian stories from before migration times.
You get this here. Hextor is much honored in the Great Kingdom. One line.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's it. So,
but thankfully today we have way more than this to go by.
Right.
In the 40 years because there's so many awesome, talented people over the time that have filled in the gaps, given us meat on the bones for this. So yeah.
And when you get to 1983, it's probably almost very, very similar to what is said in
they took the Dragon articles and put it in
and verbatim almost out.
Yeah, with better calligraphy and put it in here.
Yep. So as you get to the deities here, I bet you it's almost identical.
So,
but we got one
need
key
the
bit.
Stats.
Yeah, we don't get the stats. We get the stats in the other book, but we got one other crucial bit. We got that they're Oridian gods in here because you have you get their origins.
Okay.
And then they probably become more common because they've kind of spread all over GREYHAWK afterwards, but they had their Oridian roots.
Yeah, it looks like it's almost identical in writing.
Yeah.
With some little changes between the dragon and that. Why change it up if you don't need to?
And they don't want to contradict anything. So
yeah. So where does the information now come from that they're like both revered in the Great Kingdom at the same time by the same organization, right? Where does that come from?
Well, we have to give Carl Sargent a lot of credit for that because he built a lot of Hextorians. He built out the North Kingdom, Grenell, stuff like that. We have the Living GREYHAWK Gazetteer that added a whole bunch of stuff to this. Bastion of Faith. Those are later ones, but especially even the Undying and the Living GREYHAWK Gazetteer adds a lot to this.
Okay, so that's where we would need to go for more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. That's what we're talking about. Cranking it up a little bit here. We're gonna have some fun on that discussion. And please feel free to ask questions or bring in some commentary. So like everyone thought these were like cool gods back when we were playing in '83, but a lot of the first couple generations of characters were all filled out already. So for my campaign, you had a lot of Alana worshippers, you had all the Winchester characters, or Uko worshippers. You didn't have, we didn't start using these GREYHAWK deities till 4th, 5th, 6th generation characters, because everyone already had deities set in 82, 81, right? So it took some time to get GREYHAWK, but Alana was the big one that we had in early because, a lot of deities, the demi-human deities you knew about more than the human ones.
Yeah. We used Cuthbert, Palor, and stuff like that back in the and against IUCs, but Heironeous to some degree, but with very little. I started introducing it a little bit in my Rel Devon campaign because that's when I started reading this stuff and started getting a little bit. I got really interested, but that was the margin. Now in my Shieldlands campaign, they're dead center, so to speak. Heironeous is a centerpiece in this.
Just to bust stones, Anna.
Yeah.
Is that a sword in your game now?
Yeah, we have to get to the. No, it's not only. I've developed the legend, and there's a reason. There's a short sword now, and there used to be battle axe, but there is a battle axe with a twist.
Okay.
And I will get to that. So because I wanted to keep the legacy, but I also wanted to honor all the change to the sword, so to speak, because I think it's for good reason.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough.
So I like both, so to speak. I like the more kind of chivalresque sword fighting Heironeous, but I also like the axe wielding bravado from the old days too. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So more lore. We know there's enmity between them all. So I guess should I pull up one of those two blog posts? Should I pull this up? The Early History one here?
Well, it's so long, and it's only part of it. And
right.
these don't explain right away, Heironeous and Hextor. No.
Right. Okay.
These tell us about the stories, the precursors, and how the Erdi culture got in. But there's two names, and that's Ferrante and Cabros are the two that are related to the Heironian and Hextorian myths, because the gods have become myths, so to speak, and religion. And these two are the ones that, so I have it, just to summarize all this in like 30 seconds, is that I have it that the Heironeous and Hextor originally come from pre-migration times. Then they were like war gods or something, and they might even have existed back in the day, but they were legend even back then, so to speak. And then the ones that brought the legend of Heironeous over into the Flanese at migration times was Ferrante. He was the one that could tell the stories, he could act them, and he was, by legend, he was buried in where Critwall is, because that was the early days of Oridian immigration, so to speak. And he was the one that brought the stories and the legend and stuff. So he was kind of the first cleric or paladin of Heironeous in the Flanese in early on, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he was the one that wrote down and had the early manuscripts of their holy scriptures and all that. So he was the Heironian Jesus, so to speak, that established the religion of Heironeous and the legends of him and so on and so forth in the Flanese. And then they migrated further east, and I have it that is also why it was the viceroyalty of Ferrond was in his honor, and the kingdom of Ferrond was in his honor. And that was one of the reasons. And the Hextorians became dominant in the east, and the Heironians kept a lot of Heironians wanted to take a pilgrimage to Critwall in the early days in the 100s and stuff like that, visit his grave and do that. And that was one of the reasons they stayed there. So that was one of the many reasons that Furiundi became more good and had more of them, and the Grey Kingdom, eventually the Knights of the Protectorate and stuff got more Hextorians than Heironians in them, because the Heironians were the ones out on the vanguard in the frontier, fighting up in the bandit kingdoms and stuff like that. And so that was one of the reasons that we then later have a stronger Heironian church in Furiundi and stuff like that. So that's
interesting.
So, and I've taken my spin on, this is my spin on Bastion of the Shield and some of the stuff that Scott McMillan wrote, so to speak. So and some of the stuff that is from Eva the Undying that Carl Sargent wrote. So that's my take on it. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Mike, any thoughts on this?
On the history?
Yeah, or like the split. You know, why it appears. When I was a kid, I never associated Hextor with the Great Kingdom. I don't know why. I always associated Hextor with the Horn Society when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I didn't know any better. Because I said, they're demon worshipping, and he's got.
We didn't have much detail. That came with Carl Sargent.
That's true.
Brought it in, and the only detail we have is that Hextor and Heironeous were Oridian, and Horn Society is mixed, whether there's the people that think it's the deviltry, and now there's some good evidence for both, and old flans. So we have, that's another take. We have another half mystery. Yeah.
Some of that firms up in the GREYHAWK Wars.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
it does. You get a lot more information in it. And I think from that, and Eva the Undying was never officially published either. So
no, exactly. It was written and then just sent out on the internet, so to speak. So
So if you look in this book, I want to show this. If you look at the deities in this book, there are no Heironeous or Hextor in this book.
No, exactly. They skipped over, but they probably wanted to have less critical. But
they're well documented.
No Tritharian either. Yeah.
Yeah. we have a good question. Yeah, that's another god that is very overlooked and
absolutely.
underused.
Absolutely.
We have Iron Chef Midi, the Bastion of Faith. Yeah, the Bastion of Faith is one of these things that is very GREYHAWK, but stealthily GREYHAWK. It's not labeled GREYHAWK, but Heironeous and Hextor are named and they're described, and a lot of the myths surrounding their faiths are detailed in here. And then there are suggestions that you can put the Bastion of Faith in crit wall in the shield lance. So I ran with that. So
yeah, same here.
Yeah, this is very GREYHAWK, but it's not labeled GREYHAWK. So yeah.
This is the most GREYHAWK thing that was published during the end of Second Era edition.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Very. Yeah. It's very very GREYHAWK.
It's so great. Yeah. It's so GREYHAWK. It's
without having a GREYHAWK label on it.
Yeah. And it tells you like where you can put it and all. GREYHAWK Earth. And,
Yeah.
But like you have the specialty priests for both Heironeous and Hextor are in here. And all these characters are developed, and they're all Heironeous priests. They're all paladins. They're all,
And the history of Ferrante and Cabros and stuff are told in this.
That's true. So, that's true. This plays a huge part in my Shieldland campaign now, because a lot of these characters are actually allies of PCs up there. Because there's, I got the crazy lawful neutral faction of the Knights of the Holy Shielding that do things wrong all the time. And then the lawful gooders who have a little more long-term, but then again, it's, I'm trying to find it. There's so many magic items and there's so many.
Oh yeah. It's both mechanic and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and this is done by Bruce Cordell, but we all know, and he admitted to it, Eric Boyd did the priest for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And there's wait a minute, almost there.
And you see, it's a very long.
It's
carefully done
Here we
book.
go.
So,
here we go. Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
So here you go. The Heironeous one's all done up, so you don't have to do much to it. And then at the very end of the book, for some reason they put it in. Here's the Bastion of Evil. They put in the Hextorian battle scourges in the back, so you have both. And so if you're running any kind of edition, and you can always use this for Hextor. There you go. So, yep. Hey Eric. So it's really fun. Look at these avatar levels. They really soup them up and.
Oh yeah, they
change them up a bit from the original, but there's some great spells in here.
Yeah, this supplement should definitely have a GREYHAWK label on it or logo on it, and be seen as a GREYHAWK supplement.
Hey, Carlos.
Because it's more GREYHAWK than a lot of stuff that has a GREYHAWK logo on it.
Yeah, and that is something that.
Hello.
Thanks for your list, Carlos. Carlos has got to work, but he's gave me his list for his top adventures already. Carlos is one of the ones. Yes. Where's our secret Hextor lover, Curtis? He'll be on. It's 3 hour difference there. He's probably on his way home from work. He'll be on. So the spells and mechanics are cool, but the GREYHAWK lore is not good in Bastion of Faith.
Oh, I agree, Gary. There's things that you have to change and shift around a bit because they just went with it and went wild with. So you have to, but it's like anything. You have to trim I treat it as legend. And then there's this is what they say, and then I have this is what actually happened, the real version behind it. So yep.
Well, it's easy for me, Gary, because I don't deep dive into the lore of my campaign because I you know what I mean. I keep stuff on the outskirts because it makes it a little more easier to explain. So you're currently writing a lot of Hextorian content for your current module. That's cool, Carlos. That's awesome. So yeah.
Exactly, Gary. You have to fix it. Yeah. So it goes like a lot of stuff, but especially this that is kind of in that sense written with a lot of awesome ideas and creativity without going back and reading every footnote of everything. So it doesn't fit in perfectly. So that might be one reason why I keep it as an optional thing. So yeah.
That's the way to go. And once again, use what you want. Don't use what you don't want.
Exactly.
It's just the way to do it. I mean, you go, first off, you'll go insane. Like, and I'm not bashing David Leonard. I don't know how he goes that deep into lore
but
without
he's
going
interested
insane.
in that.
Right. But I go
It's same
insane
with
that
me. I
deep.
love it. I love it. No, I love
Yeah.
that part. That's the big
Yeah.
part to go in and do. It's like archaeology and certain history, and then it's like, oh, this is cool.
Scholarly
You can
work.
put together. Yeah.
Doesn't Brass
I
Blood
love that
Haunt
part.
have some unofficial Hextor references in it?
Oh, that's an interesting Brass Blood Haunt. That's an interesting. I need to search on that one.
That was
That
that was Greg
be.
replying to Carlos on that. So
Yeah,
that,
I need
so,
to. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the two deities are brothers. And I here's another thing. I have no idea. So, oh, it's one of the modules you got from me. Brass Blood Haunt, yeah. Oh, the idea of two brothers and one a golden child and the other dark and district is very mythic. Well, yeah, it's the old twins deal, yeah. True, but I don't know where the Stratus thing comes from. I don't like it.
Mm.
I'm like,
I don't like the name, but I like
sense.
that it's part of the. I wish they had used another name, but I like that these are legends from pre-migration times. These are the foundations of the divine family, so to speak. Of it's like the creation story, the origin creation story. We have Sternalia and the brothers and stuff like that. That to me makes a lot of sense, and I like. That is something these kind of creation myths. I like it when they are contradictory and things miss and so on, because these weren't the true stories. These are the stories written down, changed, and used and mixed up and stuff over the stuff. So you have to kind of read between the lines and come up with what's true in your campaign and then have it. But Stratis, I don't like the name. It's simply because it was used in Arma, the video game, so much, and so I kind of I don't like the name. Stratis is one of the major islands in the video game Arma, so
I didn't know that
at the same time, and it was like, yeah. So to me, Sternalia I kind of like, but I would like to have something more fantasy-esque than Stratis. Yeah. So but now we have to live with it or change it. But anyway, but I like that they have these old myths, so to speak, from ancient times. I love that.
Achilles and Hector, yes.
Yeah. Exactly. There's a lot of Greek or old Roman Greek crossovers here in both. But on the other hand, we tend to base these are the ideas of creation myths. You go to real world religions and stuff. That's obvious. We are humans and we have our own history to be inspired by. So yeah.
So as the years go on, more depth is brought out. So I guess even the Undying is probably
especially on the especially on the Hextorian side, we got a lot more of the Hextorian religion, the Naelixes and the Hextorians, the Grinnell and the North Kingdom and Hextor and stuff like that. So we got, and Hextor is very much alive and well, their part. And Heironeous is Furiundi, Shieldlands, and the West and the East too, to some degree. But we got even more detail on the West, and then we got East. We have the Hextorians are stronger, so to speak. So in that sense, that kind of plays out over the conflict has been elevated up to major stuff, so to speak. Yeah.
So is the history in this Millennium Empire area, this is where you're going to get some details, between what was happening with Hextor and Heironeous in this Millennium Empire section?
No, between
to crowns, degree, to some degree? Okay.
Some degree, yes. Yeah, okay. To some degree. Okay. And you also get, some of them you get when the North Province is described and you hear, because that's where the Hextorians became state religion, basically.
All right, so
we also have it tied into Medigia, the Sea of Medigia, that was also run by Hextorians and originally was Hextorian Heironeous, but the Hextorians won, if I remember my history correctly. Yeah, Spedasa. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So
Hextor was Hextor was the winner when it came to the core of the Great Kingdom. The Hextorians won, so to speak, under the Nail Axis and stuff. And the Heironians were, I think, their biggest bastion still in the former Great Kingdom is Reldevin, where they still have a hold and protected under the Crandons. And then in Nairon to some degree, but Furundi and the Shieldlands are, in my opinion, the bastions of Heironeous in my current campaign.
Furundi and the Shieldlands, right?
And the Shieldlands, yeah, those are the strong. Belvor and
why does the city of GREYHAWK have a large temple to Heironeous?
I think it's because it's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
My theory on that is are you looking at the Free City Growth box set? Was the first time it's shown, right? Because you got to remember at that point when it was written, it had that at that time that the Horn Society had taken over the Shieldlands in that 2-year window or whatever, and there was a lot of refugees, right, coming, and they were trying to get GREYHAWK to ally with them. The Shieldlanders were, and that's my theory on why.
Well, I have that. That's one good reason that gave them manpower. The other good reason is that they have wealthy, powerful backers in the Furundi that backs them, that want the presence there, so to speak, as a way of saying King Belvor is a very powerful player in the area, so to speak. So he wanted, and it's also, you have to realize that the city of GREYHAWK grew up as part of the viceroyalty of Ferrond. So it was a city that was dominated from that viceroyalty that was Heironian dominated, so to speak, the way that Great Kingdom later became Hextorian dominated. Those are my two theories, meaning GREYHAWK had it built in its foundation. And secondly, you got a boost from manpower during the wars when Shieldlands fell and stuff. That was a great way to fall back to. And thirdly, that still Furundi is still around as the bastion of Heironian faith, and they are one of the biggest influencers of the city, so to speak, or want to be. So they sponsor a huge presence there. So and it's a way to diplomatic outreach. It's like an extension of the Furundian embassy or presence in the city. That's how I see it.
Well, where else? Like, what other? It's gonna sound. I know there's a lot of other good deities in the city as it is. Paylor and stuff. But like as far as militant good, that's probably the one to go to, right? Oh, Patrick, thanks.
Yeah, because the Faultians are the in that sense the alternative. You lessen the good and kept them the militant to some degree.
Until Mayheen's introduced.
Exactly. Mayaheen is the new one, the new kid on the block when it comes to this. Yep. Which has a presence in Hardby, which is interesting.
Well, a big presence in Hardby with the Longland family.
But I have it that it's the female culture in Mayaheen and in Hardby. They have so I have that as one of the reasons. And I also have that now there's a Mayaheen presence in Critwall as well.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's the because a lot of most of the Heironian knights are male, so the Mayaheen is a way to recruit the women.
Why are they male?
Oh, most of them are not, but out of tradition, I guess. Like in a lot of places, Mayaheen is a way to get the and it's a way to invigorate with new stories. Heironians have been around for 600 years. They might be a bit stale, and so they want a new popular version for new kids, so to speak. It was a way to invigorate new kind of I would say a PR outreach in that sense. Yeah,
I never got that, Anna. That's okay. I mean, that's just I always thought there was an equal number of female and male Knights of the Holy Shielding.
Oh yeah, they were, but King Belvor and others have probably. I took it that Mayaheen was the new ones and especially to show that was something coming from the outside to help us. Yeah.
Okay.
During the war. Yeah. Any of them sire any kids? Oh, Heironeous and Hextor. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I don't think so.
I don't
Not
think
that it's noted.
They became gods, and then
Now, so considered more accessible than one of the greater gods. Mayhe's a good deity. I agree 100%.
And it's I have it that Mayaheen is like Cuthbert, one that was sainted, so to speak. That was actually alive, and Mayaheen was, so it's like a good cult around Mayaheen.
Okay.
So I have that Mayaheen was a paladin of Heironeous, that was then later canonized, so to speak, into it.
All right. Because it does say Mayheen's not originally of Earth.
No, but I skip other worlds.
Okay.
Yeah. Or some might say that, so to speak. So
yeah. I don't know if I agree on that either.
No, but that's just my interpretation of it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's from Palor, which is fine, but I just
sorry. Yep.
There's no.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot. It's left to conjecture as to the background.
No. But I don't contest you, Phantom. That's a good one. So I rewrite that. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Definitely from Palor. Absolutely.
Yep.
And Palor's is a very powerful, good deity.
And also more on the Flan side than the Origin side originally, which I think is cool in that sense that Heironeous and Palor was culturally rivals back in the day, but in the West they kind of became buddies, and in the East they are not. Because Palor is part of Nerul, Palor, and those gods of the four seasons, and part of the old Flan originally, and then they both became common gods in large part of the Flanese.
Does Mayheen first appear in From the Ashes and not the Free Seagrock box set?
I'm not sure where he came first, but it's from that era, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm almost positive. It's not. She wasn't in. So I'm right here and just.
Now I need to double check and wrote in on my.
Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, because in here you got other temple heads in GREYHAWK City majors, and there's no Mayheen noted. I think it's also during From the Ashes. A lot of changes. She's a Wars. Yeah, Wars. Absolutely. Yep, Wars. Okay.
Yep, Wars. Yeah, so she's from that era of the Sergeant era, so to speak. Yeah.
Mayheen does make an inroad into Harby, definitely, and there's a lot of documentation on that.
But wasn't the Gord books, they had the Daedry? Was she a Mayaheen in the Gord book? No, she was not. She was earlier. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she's 85. She's well before.
Yeah.
I don't think Gary had,
Maybe Carl Sargent had it. It took an inspiration from Daedry in the Gord books. That might be. I don't know.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. There's
because I forgot what she was just a knight, but I'm not sure if she was a religious knight or not.
There's a lot of crossover between the Gord books and little hidden innuendos you can find.
Oh yeah, because the Gord stories were official TSR GREYHAWK content. So I bet that Carl Sargent and others who followed a TSR later after Gary was ousted, they had to use that material.
It's really appreciated. What's up, Curtis? Yeah, we're just talking. So Mike,
there he is.
Your thoughts on running through to the wars with Hextor Heironeous, and how much use did you get in your campaign with as far as that rivalry or characters being used?
Surprisingly little.
Okay.
I know that the two factor into a lot of military history, but again, that's headcanon.
Yeah.
I know what's going on between the two. Never really factored much into our games, hardly at all.
Okay.
In hindsight, that's kind of terrible. I don't know why I never.
No, it's not, Mike. It's not.
Coerced someone to make a paladin of Heironeous or something.
It really isn't, because you got, like I said, with me in 80, we're using other deities. We don't see. I don't see Heironeous, and then we'll talk about Hextor. I don't see Heironeous characters. I mean, Bastion of Faith comes out 89, 90, or whenever it comes out later than that. We don't see those. No one's playing those glory axes because I don't have the specialty priest done.
I never had Bastion of Faith.
Right.
I think I still don't have Bastion.
I picked it up on a whim, and I was like, because it had, like I said, on the cover it has, Bravehearts on the cover, right? it's got, he's standing there.
Yeah, I have it up Paler. It was me saying wrong. I had it written down in Obsidian Paler, so I didn't. Yeah.
Now I've used Hextorians as villains plenty.
Yeah.
But that was more in the 3rd edition on.
So, and that's a good point too. So we have Heironian glory axes running around in that like 90s, in the early 90s. Then Bill's the first one. Bill Master comes to me and says, "I want to do these 2 characters that are neutrally based. I don't want them to be evil, a Cavalier and a Clerk Mage." So he has and one of them is
Shield Maiden.
And we do we have our first 2 Hextor worshippers, and they're in the group. The Legion, which is based in the Shieldlands, but they're Hextor worshippers. And the one priestess, Clerk Mage, is pretty powerful. And from there, I start developing the specialty priests. I talked to Gary about, Kjörg, Krizana. Oh my God, what did I say? Yep, thanks, Bill. See, I'm getting old, man. Kjörg and Krizana. Kargith was a Heironian paladin. Is that noted, or is that converted? I imagine that's Gary converting it, right? Because there was never any. Scott Benny never mentioned that, period. Yeah, so I imagine Gary wrote that up that way. So that's interesting. But
yes, on Kargoth, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Armin, what's up, Tim? I talked to Gary. And I was like, look, I want to do this, and so if you notice in my specialty priest listings, I allow, and it says it right in Bastion of Faith too. Which, let me bring that up real quick for Hextor. I want them to be able to be played because I kind of like the idea of having them in as rivals, but I don't want evil player characters. And right there, see here the battle scourges themselves, the priests, L-E-N-E, but when you come up here on the worshippers,
but to me it's
lawful neutral.
They're gone from brotherly love to rivalry to animosity to outright enemy. They're outright enemies now. So they're gone the whole diversify themselves into the whole story. They started out as brothers and back in the day, and then rivalry and so on and so forth. And over the centuries, they are now part of the biggest power struggle and are really enemies. Yeah. But it's been a long journey. I mean, go back 600 years, they were still, even when Critwall was settled in the 100s, they were a Hextorian and a Heironian temple. And then the Hextorians were expelled and so on. So back 600-700 years ago, they were still fighting the Flan and others together.
Are you saying that in Critwall, there was a temple dedicated to both?
Mm-hmm. And there was one Heironian that became the Bastion of Faith. That was the Heironian temple, right. But there was a Hextorian temple too that eventually became the commander's lodging, so to speak. The commander's residence is the former Hextorian temple. That's where Katarina resides now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I have it that was originally the Hextorian temple that was converted after they ousted the Hextorians, after when the Great Kingdom fell apart, and when Furundi declared its independence and Critwall was kind of thrown out there, or Shieldlands thrown out there in between, and that's when they ousted and the Heironians took over, and the Hextorians abandoned or was ousted. No one knows exactly, but then took over. So then they converted the Hextorian temple because it was like a fortress in Critwall, and so that's my take on it. So, yeah, and it also had the black slates that was imported from that was the black malachite, that same type of malachite that was used for the throne in Rossi's, that was used to clad the main keep, and that was why there's a black tower on the Shieldland symbol. And then when the Great Kingdom, when they turned evil, they took down the black malachite, so the tower became white, so to speak. But they took these black malachite, put it on the floor inside the entry, and even to this day, when you go in, there's like a reception, big ballroom there where you have big feasts and gatherings, and where Katarina and the whole order can gather, so to speak. And every time you go in, you spit on the floor still, so to speak, to this day as a ritual on the black malachite. So yeah, that was part of it. So yeah,
it's pretty cool.
but the black symbol is still there on the shield, even if it's not there in reality.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I just wanted to have, because the real world is full of these old anecdotes, so I thought it would be fun to have some of them in my campaign too.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I looked for some heraldry beyond, and I only found 2 from you, Anna. Maybe there's more that I don't know about. For
heraldry?
Yeah, like this one.
Yeah, we have a bunch of
Holy
shield
symbols.
and heraldry, but yeah, that's the Hextorian herald. There is also, I made a couple of more. Let's see what we found here. Yeah. So I have one that is, I made one for, let's see here, for Lady Cath. That is one of the Death Knights. She has a version with red on it as well. So I made one for Lady Cath that ties into this.
Yeah, I don't have that one. Okay.
It's on my heraldry repository on my website. I think it's there. Yeah. Let's see. We have that one, and there's some more for.
I got one for Heironeous as well.
Yep. Yeah, and King Belvor has a shield too, and that has the Heironian.
Well, that's when I get to Armin. Is what is the origin story on Hextor's symbol off of this? Like, does anyone know that? That's a good question.
I don't know exactly
what.
That's a great.
Well, he has 6 arrows for 6 arms.
Yeah, 6.
Right.
Yeah, it's the arrows. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 6 arrows for 6 arms. This is a North Kingdom shield, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
No, not the North. The North Kingdom. It depends. The North Kingdom had the blue dragon and the Airdy sun. That was the one they launched when in the Living GREYHAWK campaign. They had it, and the original northern. They had the red background and the Airdy shield in the middle. That's another one that been used for the North Kingdom, and they also used this one. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's been part of the.
Oh my God, I can't.
But I created a Belvor shield that has the that is the silver at the top. That is the one crown of the viceroyalty of Pharaon, and a blue background, and the silver arrow or silver lightning in the middle, so to speak. So
well, there's this one.
Yeah, that's from my that I used that in my Reldeven campaign. That's the Heironian Church of Nyrond that wants to show off. They have the and they have the yellow and that's the colors of Relmord. So they used it for a long time to show it. So that's the Heironian Church of Nyrond that used that one. So yeah, so I used that one, and then we have one Belvor should be around somewhere too.
Yeah, I looked through all the ones I had on my machine. I didn't have one, so sorry about that.
So hang on a second. No worries. I can go and see if I can.
Anything you can throw in Discord.
Oh yeah, I should throw. I have the.
Is there a symbol for Nerol? Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's a heraldry symbol for Nerol.
There is. Yeah, there's a symbol for.
Skull and sickle.
Yeah.
That's an old one. There's an old Nerol one. I may have it in old. No, I don't see it in my heraldry ones. Yeah.
Hang on a second. I need to
take your time. So yeah.
You need to double check that this is the link that works externally, because a lot of times when you click on the link on my machine, it might be.
Oh, it's a download link.
No, it's to my Notion site, because I put all this stuff there. So.
Oh, okay.
No, it's good. So I have.
Excuse me. All right, let me get over to here. Let me get to here. Heironeous. Man.
Here you can go and you can find almost all the heraldry. So here you have the heraldry database, and there is a Belvoir heraldry in there somewhere too, I think. Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to download it while I'm live streaming though, so.
Okay, there's rice.
Whoops! I doubled that up. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think I put all the real shields there too. So let's
trying to get that
real heraldry. There we go. So I can put the
cool.
Here I can put the this is the link, and up in the top there you can see the Belvoir heraldry, and it's yeah, we can.
What's that?
There is there's all of them there. You can just scroll down, and then there is you can also search through it for all the content is there. Yeah, I'm going to sort it out even more. So there's you can.
It's a lot.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can search for here is the direct link to the content database. So here you can search for all of this stuff, so to speak. So we can have heraldry. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Cool.
And this is the shield of the of Belvoir. There we go. And that I made for the so that is the Bevel, because I wanted to tie into the symbology that was already being used. So I didn't want to invent something that was already there. I just wanted to and we have also have the Mayaheen guard of temple guards in Quitwall.
Yeah, there's a lot here. So oh my gosh.
Yep. So there's a bunch of them here. Let's see if we have any Hextorians. There should be some Hextorians in here.
Let me see if I can. Let me see if this works without crashing everything here. Just bringing it up. Boom. All right.
There we have Belvoir. Yep.
Okay. It's Belvoir. That's cool.
Yep. So that was the one I did for.
It's pretty cool. Looks like a mountain getting split in half.
Yeah, that was the part of the idea, so to speak, and it's the Ferond from the Furiundi symbol. There is the crown of Ferond, the vice royalty crown, and I also have it. The legend is that they put the middle spike on the crown. They made it really high as a finger to GREYHAWK Kingdom when they became sovereign. They put that one big. That was the finger. So that was the
nice.
That's the So and then that became the symbol. And since Belvoir wanted to show he's the sovereign of the new nation of Ferond, that is the successor state of Ferond. He kept that on his personal symbol, as well as Furiundi kept it on. And the three crowns of Furiundi is Furiundi, Viluna, and Divers are I have it. Those are the crowns because they were the constituent states of the viceroyalty of Ferond. So yeah, that's how I have it. So yeah, there's a bunch of heraldry. I'm going to redesign this summer and integrate it more with my own website so it's searchable and stuff like that.
Gigabytes of stuff.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, but you can search, and it's key. There are it's tagged and stuff, so you can search on tags. You can search from the year I published it and stuff like that. So yeah,
awesome.
So it's there. So yeah,
great addition. Alrighty, so give me some modern day plot hooks that you'd like, that you could do with between Hextor and even if it's like wars or if it's like post Living GREYHAWK.
I got the idea that
I got stand.
Oh yes, Armin, you can make T-shirts with my heraldry. Yes, you can. You're perfectly allowed to make T-shirts with my heraldry. So
good idea.
And also the noble dwarf had T-shirts with my heraldry. Now they don't seem to advertise T-shirts with them anymore. But so yeah, you can download the symbol and take it to a T-shirt shop and make a T-shirt with it. That's the idea. They are released under Creative Commons. So yeah, awesome.
No more OGL if you all saw that.
Yeah, that was I saw.
Stay away from that topic for now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the
well, very cool.
Yeah, but Rick D'Aiola had an interesting theory that he started to put in, and
what was that?
That was the idea that Heironeous and Hextor are aspects of Bahamut and Tiamat. And I love the idea to some degree. Not that they always have been, but they have become. That the hell and the abyss, so to speak, the demon lords and the nine, so to speak, have started to squabble over. So they've basically taken over, and they are now. So that is the part of the deal, so to speak.
That completely flies in the face of Leonard Lacosque-Souli's pantheon.
Oh yeah,
completely.
But I have it that the Sewell might got things wrong-footed, and they might have.
I think Rich has it. I'm sorry. I think Rich for once has it wrong-footed on this one.
Don't blame Rich for this one. Blame him for me going down the deep hole, so to speak. So
I don't want to argue with over Leonard. With Leonard. So because Leonard always said that Bahamut and Tiamat were his two main antagonists in the Sewell campaign. So yeah.
But that to me makes sense because back in the Sewell Empire they tried to do it there too.
Yeah. Okay.
That their animosity is bigger than humankind and has been around longer than humankind. It probably will be around when humankind is gone, so to speak. So that is just part of it. Meaning if you don't protect your gods well enough, someone will steal them from you, so to speak.
Well, look at what the Romans did with the Greeks, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was part of my and also on the Hextorian side, they might like it that they get their god become more powerful, but the Heironians might like it too because it makes their god more powerful because they got the good dragons on their side. So yeah.
It also lessens the deities overall in their history. Then what's their history growing up and all that? Oh, they're just dragons.
No. Nowadays they've become, but they're way more than dragons. All the histories are still legends, are still as true as they were, so to speak.
Understood, but I you know me, Anna. I don't like everything being Vecna'd. I don't like everything being
this is
turned into
worship
what's her
it enough
name?
and
I know. Just
I like the idea that if you just worship it and believe something well enough in the fantasy world, it becomes true.
Okay.
It's like the opposite, like in the real world, meaning it's conspiracy theories taken off and have a life of their own, so to speak. I like that idea in a fantasy world. So I want everything in my fantasy games that I don't want in my real life, so to speak. Which
I think is part of the reason you would have Tiamat and Bahamut aspects is so you could reasonably have human clerics or paladins of those dragon gods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a way for them to and also that was part of Cabros and Ferrante were the culprits back in the day when that happened, so to speak. So that was that was the way in. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a secret story to that too, but I'm not going to tell all the stories because my players, if I continue my Shieldlands campaign or when I do, they are the ones to kind of figure a lot of details about that out, because some of that detail is hidden under the Bastion of Faith in Critwall. That's part of the things that happen.
Of course, Tux, no problem. Of course, that's why we're giving away stuff tonight too. Always.
But that's my my take, and that's not for everyone. I totally get that. You might not want to either have them tainted with all the other dragon crap, so to speak, or you might want to have them as way different, so to speak, and you might have a separate all stories already done for Bahamut and Tiamat.
I like stuff standing on its own. Right, and there's a lot of history developed. Plus, Leonard with had already I already used them in his Soul Pantheon, so I'm like, you know,
and here we have to. Yeah, you're into something there, Carlos. We in third edition we had a dragonborn that was a children of Bahamut that was Heironian. And that was the other inspiration to this, because in third edition there was a dragonborn, a way where you could become like a prestige class of Heironeous that was an aspect of Bahamut, that you can become that, and you were hatched out of an egg and a bunch of stuff.
Was that Living GREYHAWK?
No, that was D&D third edition. When GREYHAWK was official, it was the hang on a second, I'll see if I can find it here. It was Heroes of whatever something books, Sword and Fist, I think.
Wasn't it Sword of Fist?
I think so. Yeah,
I know the Fists of Hextor in there.
Yep, that was.
Which is a cool organization.
Yeah. Oh, I have so many books here, so
yeah,
I had to get my.
That's funny, Sam. Font of all evil, Heironeous.
Yeah.
I do have
no, that exactly. You might not want that ID at all. I could just say that it was in here. So yeah. Prestige classes. Cavalier, Drunken Master, Duelist, Fists of Hextor.
Yeah, I have them right here up, so I can bring them up.
Yeah, it was Knight Protector of the Grey Kingdom.
Yep.
Master Samurai.
Don't know how I never use those.
Well, you had to have those books, right? You know, for third edition.
We used those books. We used them quite a lot, but not that stuff.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
So the Fists are considered part of the clergy of the Church of Hextor. They serve the scourge of battle by fighting only in those causes approved and sanctioned by Hextor's priests. Sort of like the shock troops. Yep. Yep. Curtis Fritz. Well, you gotta remember, Fritz is a Ralashaz guy, for the most part, for the time, for now. So.
No, it was it not in this one.
No. I think it was a living. I thought I could have sworn it had some kind of dragonborn thing happen in a Living GREYHAWK special event. With help from the crew, my article in Vision 3 Faithful Brotherhood Sector Furnace. Even Sam helped me. Yes, we can pop that up too. We can pop that up here. That would be good to do here. Give me a sec. I got a lot of stuff open, and I have a bad feeling I'm going to crash. Let me close out some things here. I got way too much open. All right, let me go.
Oh, it was book of Exalted Deeds. That's where it came from.
Okay, well that's yeah.
So I'll see if I can find it here. So
that's expanding on. Yeah, that's.
Did not buy that.
Yeah, that is going way out.
Yeah, Book of Exalted Deeds.
Bye, Carlos.
Carlos, see you, man. Yeah, we'll see you Sunday, man. That'll be a fun discussion Sunday. Maybe even have some arguing. Which is fine.
Book of Exalted Deeds. Yeah.
Give me a sec here and get this off here. Let me go to Visions 3. Bum. That's another good one. UV Visions. Visions 3. Okay.
Prestige classes.
All right. Visions 3. So, the faithful, the first article here.
Vassal of Bahamut, 80. Yep. Mm-hmm.
There you go, Curtis. So very well developed. The Faithful Brotherhood of the Invincible. Structure, location. Fury Niron Shield land border areas, which fits into what a lot of things that are going on. Looks like they work with the Alanian Rangers a lot, which is cool. And you got your hierarchy and command structure.
Yep.
So, yeah, very cool. Personnel are placed within existing churches along Valona, Fury, Niron Shield lands. Fits in. Becoming one of the faithful, the Justicar specialty class. Yep, and all the items and abilities of Justicar. What edition is this in? It looks like, is that 5th? So, hey,
Yeah,
darling.
it's 5th, but yeah.
Hey, darling, what's up?
Hello.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't think there's any Justicars in 5.
No, so it's probably a 1E, 2E.
Someone probably done it somewhere, but it's not officially done. Yeah.
What's going on? We're talking the gods Heironeous and Hextor, and we're jumping all over the place, which is fine. And just thank you for hopping in. We do have a Classic D&D reprint giveaway, exclamation point drawing free. Please hop in if you so choose to the giveaway drawing. Yep, exclamation point. And got a lot of talking here. Awesome. Very, very cool. So yeah, Curtis, man, it was this a year and a half ago. Time is flying by. I'm getting old fast. So yeah.
Very recent.
Oh my gosh, it's just where's the time going? But a very good article by Curtis here. Very, very good. Nicely done, and we really appreciate that. And there's Spire of Glory in Shendel, which is a cool name. I don't know if that's in the published source. Cursor, you added that. Don't forget the Knights of Niron for Visions 3. They are heavily tied to Heironeous as well. Okay, there, Michael. We can do that too. So hold on one second here. As my 56. So we also have my joint article with Ed after this right here. There we go. Hooks and factions in the world of GREYHAWK, and then we'll by Ed and me, and let's go down to. So yours, they're tied in. Michael, it's all Heironeous, no Hextor. I'm assuming. Correct. On this, there's the Soul Husks. My gosh, there we go. Knights of Niron. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'm getting new parts. As long as the new parts keep on working there, Lord Forth, right? Hopefully I'll get another, the new hip's going to be in a couple months. So, the Valorious Knights of Neron. All right, cool. I see you mentioned Katarina's in here. So Katarina is allied with Linward. Nice. And here you go. The mottos, battle cries, decrees of the order.
Oh yeah, definitely have that. Niron and the Shilland and Furundi and the Ernst are the new strong allies, so to speak. And
what about Ernst? What are the main deities in Ernst? Anyone? Michael?
Well, the what is it?
Not
the
sure.
county and the duchy are slightly different. Hang on a second.
Well, one's
So
much more Sul than the other.
Yeah, exactly. So we have the now that I can say the right one here. So we have the duchy is more Sul and the county is more straight Ridian, so to speak. From what I can say. So I see that the county is very close to Niron in and stuff. They're never, and I can also have that they are like rumors of they want to unite and Belisica and they're trying to figure out some in the future because there will be a really strong union if they can get all the three together. And
what, Niron and the Ernst states?
Yeah. If they can get a good somehow union together, because they are worried that Savener and Karlstrand and stuff, if he wins the battle over the North Kingdom, then if either of them, if North Kingdom or if once they can unite in the East again, they will become strong and come for them, so to speak. So it's more like beefing up in the future. We need to be more united so we are stronger.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought Niron and Ernst kind of had a little rivalry going on.
A rivalry in that sense that like good nations do. You compete on all sorts of fronts. But once you start having evil competitors next door, you can quickly unite and come up with that, we have similar values on things, and so we can, It's a bit like Hardby and GREYHAWK. they squabble over everything until the Pomage ends, and you have an orc warlord on your doorstep. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we need to cooperate on things.
Okay.
That's how I see it. Meaning, Hardby were very keen on being part of a domain of GREYHAWK when Turushmak was banging on the door and say, I want to come invade.
No.
That's
no. I'm sorry. They never wanted to be under GREYHAWK's thumb.
That's not my invention. That was the invention of Carl Sargent and From the Ashes and later on.
Okay, no.
Yeah, that was not my invention, but I thought it made good sense. So yeah.
It may, but Hardby, the last thing they would rather be invaded by the Pomars than be taken over by GREYHAWK.
Okay, yeah.
They despise GREYHAWK and all of its. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah,
that's kind of a weird way to look at it. You'd rather get invaded by.
They do not want GREYHAWK. They never wanted GREYHAWK to be a part of. I'm sorry, Ann, on that one.
No, but it's interesting because when I read what Sargent and all the others wrote, it makes good sense because they are trade dependent on each other. Because trade will be big if they can collaborate. They can take care of the.
Trade's one thing, but it's just I'm not going to use any real world things going on here now. Do you think the Canadians go, oh yeah, the Russians are coming or Chinese are coming?
Of course, they will ally with America. If
they will ally with America, but they're not going to say, let's form one country. We've already, I'm just saying.
If the Chinese would standing on the door and will be invaded by one or the other, I'm pretty sure that the Canadians will choose one over the other.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I know that Europe would.
Okay. I just... one thing I thought I know my Hardby and from my history.
But then we have to. It depends on who runs the values of the one invading, and that's why I'm saying that I think that most people in Hardby would agree that GREYHAWK is.
Well, maybe most people, but you have the place being run by some crazy person who thinks that it's better to have the frickin' slavers in there, underhandedly, doing stuff to GREYHAWK and taking people.
Yeah.
From divers and all along and throwing them in, and allying with them, then so we went to New Jersey. Pete. That's so funny. Yeah, all right. No, we got a little off topic there.
No, but I think it's because this is something that you in your campaign should start thinking. What are the political preferences and
True.
what how much can they hold their nose? Meaning, do you have a ruler who is so damn stubborn that they rather die than hand over the key to, even if it will be good for the country? Or
I don't know. See, I am not an expert on Nyrond and the Ernststeins. I'd love to see what Michael von Moku would say on that. I don't know. I don't know, but I thought I knew a lot since I've run Hardby campaign for like 20 years now. They despise GREYHAWK, and GREYHAWK wants to GREYHAWK wants to control that all of Hardby. They do.
Sure, definitely.
And
they so
Hardby doesn't want
I'm sure there's
GREYHAWKers
someone in Hardby who will plant the idea and say, well, see, they got the orcs to come and bang on our door so they can come and take over, because that's how disinformation is created.
I know, but there's no orc kingdoms anywhere near Hardby. I was using that as an example, right? There's none.
They almost took Safeton and all the other ones and Narwhal and stuff.
Okay.
In official, they leveled Narwhal and nearly.
No, they did. That's living GREYHAWK.
No, but what I'm saying is that in later publications they did. So
everything. Do we agree to disagree that living GREYHAWK is you can pick and choose?
No, my Narwhal didn't go under. I'm just saying that in other published stories, and it was not my decision. That was something I adopted from the Sargent era, and
1 second,
that
I think
era
I just lost my
stuff,
laptop. Yeah, I know. We're talking political aspect now.
No, but GREYHAWK politics are interesting because
they are. And
the good thing with them is that you can them to the way you like them.
Well, absolutely, 100%.
That's the idea, so to speak. You should make sense. If you want if the Hardby elite hate GREYHAWK more than anything, and that's the biggest rivalry, then
that's in my opinion, which could be wrong, but I can't see what anyone's saying because
it doesn't exist in the real world, so you can't be right or wrong. It's more like what suits your campaign and your game table. That's what.
At least my main computer didn't crash this time. I only crashed my laptop.
That's good.
Yeah, but I'd love to hear theories on with the deities with Heironeous and Hextor and stuff. And all. But I was surprised.
Yeah, believe Free State.
There we go.
Yep.
There we go. All right, there we go. So
it looks like, according to the LGG, the county of Ernst is Heironeous and the duchy is St. Cuthbert.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That makes sense.
Primarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean that they're enemies, just that they have slightly different idea of things. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Because isn't there during the Living Girl era, Michael? Isn't the Fultians the bad guys? I thought if I remembered that correctly,
they're turning bad, and I think Card Sergeant started giving them Fultians a bad rep, and I kind of ran with it. So yeah.
Yeah, in the Ernst campaign. So that's why Alliance. Yeah, Patrick, and I'm not trying to be a hard ass here and an argumentative, but alliances are one thing, but forming, I've heard of past the Dutch. Yeah, I understand that. Once again, I'm a status quo guy. I would, if I start. I know Anna's done a lot of this, which is fine. It's her campaign, but if I start forming, I never had Fear of Valuna join. Even though, they're supposed to.
They haven't joined yet in my take either. So,
right. But they're supposed to when Thrommel gets freed and they get married and all that stuff happens. Yeah,
they both want to, but it's politics involved. Which
exactly.
Both Belvoir and Valuna, because there's the Elven dimension, there's they're part of Furundi provinces don't like it, and then it's the why should we pay for the war against Ayus and perpetual war? We might not want that, and some say, well, it's just so Belvoir can get Shieldlands to be another province, and who the heck should be Belvoir's heir? And there's a lot of politics involved in this, and some say, oh, it's only so these religious zealots over in Mitrik and Valuna City can come and rule us all, and we don't want that and stuff. So there's various takes on that part.
And your campaign goes macro a lot more than mine does. Mm-hmm. Mine goes micro on more adventures in the mountains and stuff. Yeah. Thrommel is Belvoir's heir, of course. I hear Thrommel's king in my game. And a lot of people's games, he's been king for a long time.
But he's never been found yet in my campaign. So he's kind of
is Thrommel a Heironian?
Yes.
Yes. Yep, I have it that he's.
That's fun because according to our esteemed GREYHAWK wiki, he worships Rao.
Okay, Rao.
Maybe he was trying to switch over to Jolene's religion.
And that's interesting because Belvoir, his dad, is a Heironian according to most sources. And then but on the other hand, that he might be a Rowan because that's might be why exactly that might by. Valunians might want that join thing because he's a Rao. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's why I'm a status quo guy. Leave all the countries together. So.
Sorry.
She's from the. I was just talking about Valuna and Furundi. Why I never merged them. I thought it was going to be too big, powerful of a country even back then. And this is like 1987 when we finished. When we 86, 87 when he got freed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So politics aside.
That they were very keen on it, and then because they wanted that, but then when Ayus came in and whatever, now they realized that if we join the frontier states, that means that we need to pay for more of the war, and our sons and stuff have to go to war, and it will be our kids that will be in the front line the next one, so we might want to stay out of it a bit. So but now it's changing again because Belvoir is good at spinning politics, and they're starting to realize that whoever can become the heir of Furundi can be one of the most powerful people in GREYHAWK. So now it's spinning up the who's going to be heir of Belvoir's heir is spinning around, and Katarina is one of the contenders for that because she's a marshal of Furundi after all. So she just by her title she becomes high on the list. And some people will say, oh, she will be perfect for the post. Others say she's a monster. She doesn't belong here. She's not even human in reality. So so it's.
There was a question in the chat Touch of Evil asked if there were any gods that were evil that were once mortal. Why wasn't there more? And I'd have to guess the best answer is that evil characters get killed by adventurers before they can ascend.
I was just going to say evil probably lives that they have fewer friends. That's one of the reasons I have it. That
I mean, that's a cop out.
Yeah.
But they're not.
Probably makes sense.
They're not trying.
Yeah.
It's a great trope for someone want to attain godhood and like Caius or whoever.
Well, you kind of go off on. I mean, there's a lot of them. You can talk like Kargath is one. You know, I mean, Fallen Death Knight, King of the Death Knights, right?
Yeah, I have it that gods are created in two ways. They either ascend, meaning it's a creature that becomes powerful enough to become immortal and become a god, or they are emerging. They are a power like the sun or the spring winds or whatever it is that being worshipped enough, and that takes the form of a deity eventually. So those are the two things. So they either come from a phenomena being worshipped, or that's a creature that being worshipped and take powerful enough. So gods can come from either way, and then eventually become a deity.
Jeff has a question. If there's any gods that go from good to evil, back forth,
I can't think.
My first impression is Ouija's.
Yes. Yep.
That's
she straddles the divide fairly well there. Yeah. Yeah.
But she hasn't changed alignment. That's what he's asking. Like Ouija's always lawful good, lawful neutral with evil tendencies.
Switch.
Yeah. But we might see it as there might just be take a longer time horizon. I have it that if I want to go further back, meaning what about Nerul? I have it that back in the day, Nerul was a Flan war god. Go back really far, that then became more evil and eventually became the god of death rather than the god of war. But that's just my take on it, so to speak.
I guess it's just easier to say no.
Yeah. It's hard to think of. There's not a lot of Lord Soth fallen types.
Yeah, you're not gonna.
No, but now I have a fresh example in my campaign. Is Foltus. That is a god that is gone from good to lawful neutral to now lawful evil. But it's still debatable whether that switch have happened. But it's now the Foltians and others have become so extreme that they're no longer good.
But is that the religion or is that the deity?
Exactly. I have it that the religion, they became zealots and they became so dogmatic that they pushed the god with them. So because the god realized that the Folters got tempted by the power that could come by being evil, and also by the fear of actually losing some of its followers who became extreme, so to speak. So I have it that Foltus is now playing with on the evil half of the side, so to speak.
So when it says that God has a certain tendency, I suppose tendency then is the worshippers.
Yeah, and I have it that, but that depends on how you want deities to function in your campaign. Are they these uber beings that just make things happen, and the poor hapless worshippers just have to live in the awe of the Almighty? Then there's not a chance in hell that gods don't take orders from mere mortals. That's one way you can do it. But I have it that is more like a two-way street there. A lot of worshippers, it's the worshippers that give powers to the deities by worshipping. And if the worshippers go extreme one way or the other, the deity either have to adjust, it can three ways. Either find new worshippers, adjust the worshippers you have, or adjust their own view to follow the worshippers. And Folters try a little bit of all of them, so to speak. So yeah,
I would think the lawful neutral aspect Foltians in the Theocracy of the Pale, if an evil sect of Foltians would come up, they would burn them all at the stake right then and there. That's what I would think.
Well, yeah, but and go on earlier. That was the way it was. But then Card Sergeant, he painted the Foltians as zealots, extreme zealots that were more extreme than anything, and then it went downhill from there, so to speak. Which I think it's cool that you can have like a religion that is fallen off the cliff, so to speak. I think it's an interesting aspect, so I went with it. Yeah.
Well, there's no chance of Heironeous or Hextor changing alignment because they're opposites.
Exactly. They when you have an opposite that competes, that keeps you straight, so to speak. Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I like Messer. I love the lawful neutral Fultians in my campaign, but that's as far as I'm going to go with them. I'm not gonna say that in a stretch of 3 years or 5 years in campaign time, the deity's going to go from lawful good to lawful evil. I can't do that because
I'm not even sure in real world mythology there's alignment changes in deities.
Right. I mean, there's like hero deities that change, like maybe Hercules and stuff like that, right? With their aspects and their thoughts on things.
Well, the Romans changed and tweaked the old Greek gods, and the Egyptians screwed their over and all of a sudden decided that they're going to change. So there's plenty of this change going. I mean, look at Christianity. It has gone from a religion of tolerance to a religion of war and changed souls and change these heathens into become Christians and stuff. So, and then back again. So there is plenty of change, and you can see it in this time too. Meaning sometimes the Christianity is a religion of modesty, moderation, tolerance. And
answer then is, as the gods are presented in the world of Greg now, 1,000 years from now there could be a switch.
Yeah. And I have it that meaning that the Fultians, that's a half a century switch. That's a switch that takes place over 500 years. And it's not complete yet. It's just pushed over the threshold, so to speak, the last century or so. Yeah.
So, Michael, getting back to the Dimronites, that is, I think, they may be evil because someone is taking advantage of the population being weak. That doesn't mean that Fultus is evil there. That's the way I look at it. And I look at Will did a good article on it.
And it's also you need to figure out how deities and religions and
absolutely.
And stuff how that functions.
100%.
The roles of gods can be very different from campaign to campaign.
Sure.
So
and we all know there's a populace that can be easily people are weak-minded, so there's ways of easily corrupting the populace to your will, which may not have anything to do with the deity, but in the deity's name.
Yeah, and that's the other interesting. Can you run a cult in a god's name without it being by the god? Can you run a cult under false flag? That's an interesting, 100%. Cool option. Yeah,
absolutely.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, 100% on it. I think that's more of what's happening in Dimri, but then that's all right. Cool.
Yeah, Dimri is. They have interesting examples.
I agree, Michael. I love the message there is. I love it. I just said that having the god go to evil is one step too far for me, but that's okay. Like I said,
and to me it's kind of interesting. Yeah, to me it's kind of interesting because Dimri and the Fultians are both far away from good, so they have two factions of the Fultian faith that neither of them are the good old Fultians from when they were good, so to speak. Both Dimri and Pale are very far from the good church of Fultus that was around 300-400 years ago, and so now they're modern by GREYHAWK standards, so to speak, in the late 500s that are very different from 300-400 years ago.
Moose, I'm going to give you a big one. The whole Vatun thing.
Yeah, but that was an Iusian ruse taken.
It is a ruse of a deity, though.
Exactly. That was taking old myths from Thelonian old myths and then run with them, which I think is a great story. Yeah.
Exactly, Michael.
Maybe not the best adventure, but I like that you take an old legend and myth in the world, and then you use that to your advantage. I think that's a cool way of doing it. Yeah.
Well, Washi's Cult is open to all swamp dwellers, good and evil. I don't know many of good aligned people that are Washi Cult followers where they're going to, flay halflings on pitchforks.
Yeah,
So,
fun.
yeah,
I think that's a great idea. You should an open-minded cult. It's cool. Yeah, Vastri is not picky.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, the only one true guy, Cuthbert. Well, Cuthbert's a little confusing in his own
Samuel,
right.
that's a good point. Meaning, how long does it take to screw a religion over, so to speak, and change it? That's something you have to kind of, or is it possible? Or yeah.
Oh, I imagine it's highly possible. Absolutely. It can happen.
Dragai, that's a good point, Dragai. That's the thing. So the religion and the God are very separate, so to speak, and in a way you can say that the power is the God are just make believe things, and the power is in the religion itself. So the whatever, it's just the sheer together thinking of all the critters that creates the illusion of the deity. That's another way you can handle it from a mechanic standpoint, so to speak, as well. And say that if a lot of people think a certain way, then that gives them power by definition, so to speak. So that's why you do it. And that's kind of my way, but there's the deity is a real manifestation of that comes from the devotees, either by sheer worship or by fear.
Cool.
Yep.
So, because I'm going to sit now. That's why I'm showing my midsection here. Standing in one place is probably the worst thing I can do. All right.
But I think it's important but I think it's something that as a DM in your campaign, you should have at least a basic idea of how you want deities and religion to function, so to speak, because you can use that as cool things for how the clerics and paladins get their spells and their smites and stuff.
Absolutely.
Or is it and how do that work, so to speak? Can you offend your deity so they refuse your spells? Could a deity refuse all the spells, or are minor spells something that the cleric or the paladin can get anyway, so to speak, and stuff? So you have a basic idea of how you want that to function in your campaign, because there are many different ways to make it function. You just have to have a basic idea of how you want it to run. So
I got two whole questions myself. Of course, one of them is very confrontational, and I've been bad during this whole discussion.
No, that's good.
But this one here, because we said we get back to it. Number one is where the hell did Stratus come from? Where did that discussion come from? And like, who threw that lore in there, thinking, oh, there's a third brother? What's that?
Chris Pramus.
Chris Pramus did in what publication?
Chainmail.
It's Chainmail.
Yeah, I think it's from there. Yeah, I think it's from there. Yep.
That's where it starts. Where it ends.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Chainmail is done battles on the western side of the map, isn't it?
Yeah, it's part of the origin story of the Origins, when the pre-migration they came from somewhere over in the west, so to speak. If that's really far west, or if it's just west of the mountains, we don't know. But it's west of the Flan East, so to speak. It's somewhere out there in the west. No. Ancient history of the Origins.
I'm sticking with my Red Knight then, because we all love our Red Knight. All right, here we go. Oh shit! I didn't mean to do that. I swear. I'm going to bash on Anna for 10 seconds, and she can have the floor here.
Oh, yeah, please.
It's Heironeous in the Faith. Right? This Glory Axes. It's Glory Axes.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Battle Axe. It makes them different than every other sword wielding. All right. So somewhere in 4th or 5th edition, bad writing, in my opinion, lazy writing. Heironeous priests start showing up with swords because they can't remember their own lore.
I think it was called Sergeant who wanted something, and that might have been. This is my speculating. My guessing is that they wanted something that tied into regular medieval chivalric fantasy kind of thing. Knights should have swords, period, or something like that. So in his era, Heironeans became more and more sword wielders, and in 3rd edition Living Greyhawk, that was then kind of codified that Heironeans became sword wielders rather than axe wielders.
This book is way post Sargent's writings, just so you know.
That's because there's no paladin worth his salt who's going to use an axe when there's Holy Avenger swords out there.
Exactly. That was so.
Why can't
My
you have a
guess
Holy
is that
Avenger battle axe? No.
yeah, you can't. But that's my guess why they did it, so to speak. And that's the other reason that the Bastion of Faith kind of sailed under the radar and got published anyway without tying too much into old history, so to speak. Yeah, but I agree. And so let me put how I try to wield, because I like the fact that they used battle axe, but I also want them. I also like the standard chivalry sword wielding knights, so to speak. So the way I did it was try to take a little bit of inspiration from real world, because back in ancient times, axes were way more common than swords for a couple of reasons. One is that axes are way cheaper and easier to make. A sword is metallically much harder to make, take much more skill and more material and longer and so on. An axe is a lot easier to make. And axes have been around since the Stone Age, and swords are much later invention in the Bronze Age. I think they were like the copper bronze swords later on. But so what I have it that is that Heironians were back in the time they were axe wielders, and that's how they got their fame originally. But then when they came into the Flan, the Flanese, the Flan were already axe masters. And the Origians had learned more advanced metallurgy, and their smiths and stuff could make better weapons than axes. So they started to advance and make more advanced swords and stuff like that. And one way you want to do is that you want to separate yourself from the enemy. And since the enemy became the Flan, who were the the axe wielders, out of tradition, they wanted cheap, easy, good weapons. And that's when the Origians wanted to be the landed gentry and the noble and stuff. They needed a noble symbol, and the sword became that symbol. And the Heironians adopted the new Oridian symbol of power, the sword over the axe. But there is a twist to this, is that the Heironian knights in my campaign, they still have to learn and master the axe. And the symbol is that you use the sword when you're fighting civilized enemies. And when you deem out justice and stuff, you use it. But if the enemy goes off the rails and say that there's no rules and we are going to have a fight to the last man and there's no rules and there's cheating, then the Heironian knights take out the battle axe as a sign of saying, okay, the rules are gone. Now it's just us fighting and no rules anymore. And you can cheat as much as you want. And you can cheat from back as a signal saying, if you want a fight without no rules, no honor, we are going to take up the battle axe and show that we are going to master that too, so to speak. So I have it as so they use it as a signal. So when if there's an honorable fight, then they use the swords. And if the enemy wants to, and they are kind of oath driven to keep honor as long as possible. But if the enemy insists on this should be a dishonorable fight, then the Heironians can pick up the battle axe as a symbol of showing it, so to speak. So that's my take. So they still have the battle axe is still a thing they need to master. Yeah.
So, okay.
That's my
I
take
can live with
it,
that,
so to speak. Yeah.
I want to show something here. There's some weird aversion. There was some weird aversion in that edition. Oh, we can't, swords and all. You can't have special battle axes. Well, look at this. This is Abagai's.
Oh, of course you can.
I know.
I believe you can have a holy axe just like you have a holy sword.
Check out this guy. This is Abagai's. This is in Bastion of Faith. Check out his weapon. I mean, he has a long sword too. Look at that. He has a sword. Plushy battle axe, Fair Razor. 30% magic resistance, allows wielder to cast Flame Strike at 20th level twice per day.
That is powerful. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So he's got a special battle axe, and he's a glory axe, right? He's a dual class actually human, which is cool. So I don't know. Sometimes things get diluted over editions. We know that stuff gets changes.
And
changes
GREYHAWK
happen.
and GREYHAWK has been published for over 40 years.
Yeah,
so
true.
It's I can by 2 companies and hundreds of creators. So yeah.
It's that aspect though. I try and figure out why, and I know you've come up with a reason.
Yeah, and
that's your reason. There's no way that the WotC people that was their reason.
No, exactly. That was my construction or trying to come up with why things were screwed up, so to speak.
Yeah, you came up with a good reason for it. So
yeah.
Death Ray, daggers. I have like flame tongue. I know I've given out a not a flame tongue, but a frostbrand dagger. I've given out all sorts of crazy daggers. The daggers that raise your backstab levels by 4, all sorts of neat stuff. So, but yeah, all right. That always bothered me.
It's a good point. Yeah, and I think it's a point that if you're a GREYHAWker, you should kind of make up your mind. Do they use both, or for what reason do they use one or the other? Why did they switch, etc.? So, but it's one of these anecdotes that I think it's sad that they, that it's. I like this change in that sense, but I wanted to I tried to make lemonade out of lemons.
You did, and I think Mike and I come from the same 1E, 2E, or 1E background where you as a DM. You can make I don't, and I'm not bashing newer editions. That's not what this is about. You can make all those old stuff, all sorts of things. I think newer DMs don't realize. Well, I can take a weapon and make a +2 weapon, I can do all these changes to it. Yep. How many are there a ton of intelligent weapons running around now and regular editions where they're actually talking to characters and stuff.
That is in 5e, but I'm sure it's there. So yeah. But we have to give it. That was an invention of old school. So it's been around since first edition.
It's awesome. I love one of the best things about the game is making unique items up.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, you can do anything, Rascal. I understand that, but I don't know if the newer generation of DMs understands. That the intelligent weapon.
Guild is full of custom creations, so I think they're starting to get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What other questions do we have out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a question ways back about Hextor's relationship with the Horn Society because he's cozy with Hell and Devils.
I always had that before all From the Ashes came out. I thought they were Hextor worshippers / devil worshippers. Like that was it. They weren't demon worshippers. They went more the Asmodeus route and Hextor route. That's what I thought. And
pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I did see that, Mike. I did see that Ostrich Kickstarter crowdfunder for Matt Finch. Absolutely. What are your thoughts, Anna, on that?
For me, I have it that the Horn Society are primarily their old Flan faction, so to speak, the horned ones. That was part of, and the reason they set up camp up there was when the Origians came in and established their dominance of the continent or subcontinent. Then that was one of the areas they could, as Flan, carry on the fight against the Origians, and then in the beginning they were just the horned ones that were just a faction among the Flan. But then when Ayus set up shop in the lands, he became kidnapped. They needed to protect his realm, so that's when they became official. And they, in that sense, that they came out and say, we are ruling this area. We are the Horn Society, and so originally they were a Flan cult, so to speak, the dark, the horned ones that rule it. But then that changed a little bit because then you had a bunch of warlords, others were kind of recruited and stuff. And then the Grey Kingdom fell apart. And then you got another faction that came that was the ones that were ousted. So there is a little bit of deviltry in there too, because what happened, and this is where Heironeous and Hextorians tie in, because the Heironians had that whole area to themselves, meaning Belvoir and the Shieldlanders and others were Heironians. The Hextorians wanted in on that half too because they wanted to fight them, and the Horn Society was one of the factions that was there and available, so they nestled themselves in there too. So that's why
not much of a rivalry if you're not.
You need to be
other.
Exactly. You need to be at each other. So that's how I have
I was
it. That
just
yeah.
Now you have benefit of years and years and years of publication that came after. I just like picked up my guide here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the map, the old alignment map.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Interestingly, Horn Society's lawful evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hextor makes
and
perfect
devils.
sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Now, you know who's not lawful evil? 2/3 of the Great Kingdom.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
The South Province is lawful evil, but the rest of it's neutral evil and chaotic neutral.
But I think the South Province comes from Sea of Medigia and stuff, because that was where Hextorians were strong in back in the old, and then they took up over with the late Neolixes and stuff in the north.
So anyhow, with the benefit of just having 1983 information, Hextor in the Horn Society makes a lot of sense.
Yep. So my take on it was that the Horn Society have that history. It started out as a Flan cultural thing, basically, and then it got caught up in the major politics of the day and so on and so forth, and then when IUs came back, they folded back in because they thought, okay, now we're no longer needed, and they became a roaming faction in secret. But then IUs went off script, and instead of being a champion of the Flan, he became an enemy of everybody. And that meant that all of a sudden, the Horn Society is no longer allied with IUs, and they have become these free-spirited all of a sudden. And they are now, no one knows how strong the faction of Hextorians are in the Horn Society. And so it's kind of interesting. And the Heironians have grown stronger in the West, and we don't know. And in my campaign, I'm still thinking of how strong they should be, so to speak. Maybe they want that Katarina's residence back, so to speak. You never know. So
as a design standpoint, I almost wish the Horn Society had been placed somewhere else, not right next to IUs in the Bandit Kingdoms.
Yeah, I had that same thing.
To have two such, even opposite evil factions right next to each other just was counterproductive. The Horn Society should be.
But I loved Horn Society because they were kind of they're weirdo evil, so to speak, and we didn't know where they came from. And then Card Sergeant killed them off, so I had to make lemons out of lemonades, or maybe vice versa. So depending on how you see it. So I tried to deal with it and make sense of something that I wanted not to happen. So it's kind of So that's but this is something you should start thinking of what you want your Horn Society or not want it to be, and how you want it, because it is an enigma that is kind of not spoken of in detail anywhere, so to speak. So there is no hard truth to what the Horn Society are and who runs them, but they are ideas and stuff. We have Warlord, for instance, the one of the action figures from the cartoon movie. So he's around, and he's movie. One of
Warduke.
Warduke,
thank you. Warduke. Yeah, thank you, Warduke. Yeah, so I made him he's one of my hierarchs of Horn Society. I made him a name and a history, and he's from 900 years back. So, and he was one of the ones that defeated Dragotha back in the day, so to speak. And he was one of the hierarchs of Horn Society. And they have a tendency of linger long after their death, so to speak. So in some sense, he's still there. So he's kind of a Death Knight type now. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So those are. I haven't killed. Horn Society is still around, but they are now in a way they are filling the same niche as the Scarlet Brotherhood used to fill, because now the Horn Society has become a behind the scenes faction, and not a faction that runs a country anymore. They become a free roaming faction, and we don't know exactly what they're up to. and which is an interesting role to have. You can have that secret society or something that can be powerful, but not. It's hard to pin down.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out the raid order tonight because we got Stronghold on and stuff. So I'm doing stuff behind the scenes.
Considering the Horn Society being devil worshippers or whatever, I much prefer that to the Great Kingdom having devil worshipping aspect. I think it's redundant for them to be this Hextorian.
But what about the Nerl and Ivids? So he's not a thrall of hell. Then he's not.
I just think the devils in the Great Kingdom is redundant.
I think, yeah, I think that's where I have the devils, so to speak. That's why Hextor is Tiamat, because they wanted. And I have it that it was simply Asmodeus and the lords of the nine, so to speak. They realized that the Great Kingdom is the most powerful. If we can corrupt them to work for us, we will automatically get so much influence. That was one of the reasons they took the Naelixes and made them thralls of them, so to speak. And the Ivids became mad kings of mad emperors under the thrall of Asmodeus or the Hells.
There's a good question right there in chat, but I don't want to use it on this topic.
Yeah.
And that is, what if Ius was being raised to be a future hierarch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my take on it. Meaning, Gerasitz and he when he found Igwil, he found the right mother for his offspring that was going to be a hero of the Flan, meaning one of these that was his idea, and then he was going to be the lead horned one, so to speak. That was what he was raised to be. So I have it. So yep. And then when he was captured, the Horn Society has to step up and protect his holdings up in the north. And that the reason they placed him up there was because he was so far away enough that he could build his empire safely away from Rossi's and the Origians, far away enough, so to speak. And that was part of Grasset's and the blood war and Tiamat, Bahamut, whatever, so to speak. It's part of the big politics that spill over into GREYHAWK. So these hapless humans have to navigate the big politics that screw with their lives constantly. So yeah, but that's my take. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't want to go there on any IU's history because we've done it 100 times and it's 100 different thoughts.
Oh yeah, because. But I can again recommend Scott McMillan's story of. Hang on a second here. I put the blog post again. Scott McMillan has a series of. Hang on a second.
Any other final questions as Anna's linking that?
Yeah. Copy URL.
We got a lot going on the rest of the week.
Yeah, here we go. That's Scott McMillan had a long, I think it's like 10, 12 or 15 or something articles of the history of the Great Kingdom. And this is, he put a lot of the meat on the bones, so to speak. And it's a fantastic read of a lot of this. And there you find out a lot of the figures that were behind this in the early days, from Loom the Mad to Leuco and Ferrante and Cabros and Kingdom of Thaland and a whole bunch of cool stuff that was part of the early days of this that you can use as a backdrop, ancient history, come up with cool names, connections to things, or just inspiration, or maybe even if you don't like it, explanation of saying, oh, an example of what you don't want in your campaign. That might be too. So yeah. And then GREYHAWK Musings as well. I have to put a link to his again because I love David Leonard's take on is also fantastic work on this. So yeah. And then we have the Dread Old one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of funny because Ius is not that old. He's like 150 years old or something in 580s. So he's not that old. But I used the old one because that's a signal. He used the title, the old one, to appear older and more pompous than he is. And also as a way of tying into the old, meaning the Flan look at themselves as the old. So yeah. Yeah, he's middle-aged. Yeah. I mean,
you can go as deep into the lore as you want.
Yep.
You know. Excuse me. Cough. Any final questions before we wrap up here? Excuse me. Needed that. Yeah, the dread midlife crisis, exactly. Tom, I don't even remember what it was, so sorry. I don't remember what the question was. So, I'm trying to get some other answers here.
Was it about Hextor or Heironeous?
Yes. My favorite deity is not Heironeous there, Michael. It's not. I like Heironeous, but it's not my favorite. I love Tritherion.
Has there ever been a battle between Orcus and Asmod?
Asmodeus? No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I know a straight one from, but I have Orcus as one of the demon lords that the ancient Flan, the Dark Faith, or the Horned Ones used. Grasset and Orcus were a couple of these demon lords that they had in their part of the Urflan cultists, so to speak. If you use the Grey Kingdom way of describing the Horned Ones or the old Flan, the Urflan cultists, and I have it that Orcus was one of a demon lord that gave them undead powers, so to speak, that gave them the knowledge of how to turn things undead and stuff. So Orcus gave them that. So, but so in some sense, Orcus, I have it that Orcus did that and recruited, and Asmodeus. So I have it proxy wars. Meaning, look at Arenda Grost, or whatever it's called, the first that abyssal maw that they were trying to unleash on Rossis. I have that as a proxy war between the demon lords that was on the Flan side and the attacking that was a part of the struggle between the Flan and the Origians. And since they wanted to take sides, so to speak, so Asmodeus turned the Grey Kingdom crazy, and the Flan used the demon lords on their side. So that struggle went on when they took Heironian Knights of the Protectorate and corrupted him in the name of Demon Lord and Demogorgon and stuff. That was part of that struggle too. So yeah. So I have it so by war by proxy, yes, but I have it that these demon lords and Asmodeus doesn't go in personal battle with the demon lord. He starts a proxy war somehow, somewhere, and that way they can adjust their strengths. That's the last resort, to go to battle yourself. You use others to do your bidding. Just like in the real world, the politicians and the leaders of various countries go to war. They use proxies, and preferably proxies someone else's sons and daughters to do the fighting rather than your own, so to speak. You want others to do your bidding, and especially the evil ones, but the goods do too. So yeah, you get someone else to do your fighting. And
true.
Yeah, and Hextor is the Herald of Hell. That's another thing that I think popped up in 3rd edition, if I remember correctly, which I think can be a cool way of looking at it. And I think he could be a good Herald of Hell, because he's that kind of being the frontline figure. So yeah. 1E, okay. That was
that was a long time ago.
That early. Okay, yeah.
Early on.
So that it must be true, Jay. It must be true. Well, it was old school.
The thing with that is, I always thought it was Horn Society, just because back in the day, there was not a lot of demons and devils are running around in GREYHAWK early on. There wasn't.
No, exactly.
Not until other stuff came out, and it started filtering in. Who Ius's father was, and all that.
Yeah, and Grasset were involved, and a whole bunch of other
stuff.
But
a lot of people said it was Orcus to start, right?
Oh yeah.
So it was
and
a lot
Orcus
of that.
has a finger to play in my game. Orcus has a finger in the pie here too. So
there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of speculation, and that's good to be. It's good that there is. But like I said, not everything is going to have a definitive answer, and that's where you can develop it in your game as much as you want, and that's a wonderful thing. Yep. So really cool, in-depth discussion. We went real deep here, so I hope everyone enjoyed this. We got a lot going on the rest of the week. So, but let's see, Mike, what's going on with you?
Well, looks like I'm gonna have to probably do a blog post or something because I have a whole page of Heironeous Hextor notes I didn't use.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Literally comparing the two, not the religions. Anyhow, in the meantime, I do have a new comic up on the blog, so check that out.
Nice.
Holding back. But otherwise, I got my Paraland game rolling along nicely.
Beautiful.
We're at 4th level, so.
How many characters?
5.
Nice.
Yep. So
beautiful.
It's a good group.
That's awesome. If you can get me your list, I will add it and compile it, and we'll have some fun things to discuss Sunday. Going to be a blast.
Yeah.
No, Josh, don't go. You're a half hour too late for that. Zippity doo dah. Stratus is. Yeah. So.
No, the name I think is a little bit low creativity, but the story behind it is cool. Yep.
Yeah. I've remedied it in my campaign.
Oh, Fritz is the herald of hell.
No, Fritz is the herald of stupidity. Everyone knows that. Pure chaotic, stupid, chaotic neutral character, which is fun. Which is the typical anti-hero in my game. So that works. So exactly. 100%. So what's going on with you?
I can put a link in. I just posted the latest a look into mapping the shield lands. A look at the big picture.
Yeah, it's cool.
With a bunch of screenshots and stuff of the big pictures. They're not textured yet. They will be fairly soon. And now I have covered well over 1 million square miles, and it's 50 feet per pixel, and it looking. The quality is good enough that it will work really well. And I'm also prepping a lot for the various conventions. And there is so that I need to have some meetings about both Game Hall Con coming up and on Friday, and so there's a lot of convention prep that needs to be taken care of early on now, and there will be a mapping stream on Friday.
Nice.
Hopefully with Linda. Hopefully she has had a cold and stuff, but she will be back this week. So
oh boy, I was behind schedule because I didn't put all this stuff up like I should have. Man, I got to get a banner for Doug Niles. I got to remember that June 1st, Doug Niles, everyone.
Yeah.
Let me get all these up. A lot.
And now I have to look into my favorite modules too. Yeah.
Yes, you do.
And I have a different takes on them. You know what I think of modules, so that's why I'm having a different take. But I think it could be fun.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. All righty. So tomorrow night we start. I need to. Man, I kind of hit the wall. It's been a long work day.
That was a cool name of Avkamun. I'm stealing
Aquaman,
that. Yeah. Avkamun. Yeah. That's awesome.
All right, here we go. I got some map up here. We'll just throw this map up. All right. So tomorrow night we get to go to Norwell, which is not destroyed. Just kidding. And the adventure, there you go. Some neat stuff put up there. We got an estate. We got the underground part. It'll be 1 to 2 weeks. I don't think they'll finish it in 1 week, but you never know with my guys. Normally there's 2 transit to get it done in 1 week. But so, Norwell Headhunters, Bastion of Undeath, a lesser noble lord of the lands. It's allied with the Baron of Norwell. Hasn't been seen for a while. That's how we'll start. We'll go on that, and that'll start tomorrow. And we're gonna. It's printing goes ever on, plus a troller game gift certificate tomorrow night. So you never know, Tux. We're gonna find out. I don't know about that. The way the voting's going, you will see. We will see. I don't want to ruin anything. So Saturday at 12:30. Okay. Eyes are upon you. The Bone Baddies are back. So I got Coco, Timothy, Kara Paul, Korg, Dessa, and Violence, which is Heather X, all in on this one. A fun game with a fun group. Yes, that'll be a blast, and that'll run 12:30, like 4:30 or 5. So that'll be my special game for Saturday. Then we'll have normal events next week. Oh, Sunday night's the big one, everyone. Been waiting for this for a long time. And we should have a really fun discussion. So I'll just tell you, we have participating on stream Eric Mona and Joe Block and Anna and me for discussion. I'll have lists from Mike, William Henry Dvorak, Sam, Rick Miller, Carlos. Fair enough? It's good. That's a good group, right? Less and less. Okay? Yeah, and less. So, yeah, man. Sorry about that, Gary. But, Gary, if you want to give me your list, man, I'll incorporate it. So.
Gary, which god screw you over?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But, hey, we finally got Erica available. So, that'll be it. That'll be Mother's Day evening, 7. And we'll go over and we'll try and come with, where's that Gary character? Yeah, Gary's more than welcome if he can make it. I know he's got family stuff, so
all of them. Damn.
Yeah. But this is cannot wait. Cannot wait. It'll be some contention here, but it'll be a fun discussion. Next Saturday's a doubleheader. 12 noon, our champions game with Curtis GMing. As we continue, we get to see Rocket Red's Glare with new gear. That's going to be fun. And Tim's first time playing. And Coco and Brett playing as well for the Champions game at noon. And then when we get that done, I'll take a quickie break. And then a big game, 2-drink minimum, rest and relaxation. Ed, Tony, Darling, Bones, Coco, Eric Menke, Asher Lyer, and Eric Boyd now.
Wow. I
got 8 players in that. But it's just going to be rest and relaxation. It's just going to be downtime. Nothing's going to happen. So that starts at 6 o'clock. Okay, so that'll be a blast, and that with Ed and crew coming up there week from Saturday, and then after that on June 1st, the next big thing, Sunday, June 1st, Doug Niles is finally on. So yeah. No, July 5th. Saturday, July 5th, the day after 4th of July, is going to be right now the next 24-hour stream. Dennis! Dennis. Discord. I missed you. I knew I missed someone. I'm going to send you something in your Discord as soon as the stream's over. Okay, Dennis? Damn. I don't know how I did that. Yeah, I got to get it. I got to get you. Yeah, I need your list, too. I got to have you. Sorry about that. My apologies. That's what's going on. See you Wednesday, exclamation point drawing. And we're going to raid into Bones, and Bones will go into Stronghold. Okay? Later on. So, last call. Thanks all for a great stream. I know I got a little contentious tonight.
Yep. Yeah, Gary's that. Yep. No, that's okay, Jay. I like it. I love it because that gives me someone to spar with.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Everything was fine with the Harvey stuff.
yeah. No, but I like that too. That was a lot of fun because that's fantasy politics.
Absolutely.
At its best, I think,
yeah.
Which is kind of cool because that's something you should spice up your campaign.
Amen.
Going one way or the other, so to speak. So yeah.
Armin, you're getting a gift certificate from Troller Games because you're you're all the way. So you're getting a Troller Games GC. Yeah, it was fun, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
So
so thank you, Jay, for bringing that
up.
Yeah,
of course.
My juices flowing here.
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not mailing anything to New Zealand. So yep. And there we go. So Armin, Gratz, we're going to raid into Bones here, and then Bones is going to go into Stronghold later tonight. Mike, thank you. Anna, thank you. Great stream. Like I said, tomorrow night, 7:30, Saturday afternoon, 12:30 to 1, and that start time, and then Sunday night for, so we got 3 more streams. And Anna on Friday. So every night, something's going on. Okay? Awesome. I'm going to hit the wrong button. See ya. It's going to be a fun discussion Sunday. It really is. Let's see here.
This wasn't super structured, but I hopefully got some
Here we
things
go.
through that was interesting. So, yep.
Should we get right around 90? Look at that. 100. Awesome. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you tomorrow night. Beautiful. Alrighty. All right, Mike. If you like I said, you can do G1 to 3, G1 to 3, whatever you want.